So welcome everyone. Our presentation is going to cover how teamwork makes the dream work. In this presentation, we'll be talking about how AutoVitals trainers and advisors help you reach your goals with using our products, but more importantly, how to use these products to reach your goals, whether they be to open a new shop, increase your ARO, or just get more done with your current staff. My co-host is Russ Crosby, owner of Russ's Wrench in Clinton, New Jersey, and he'll be telling us a little bit about his shop and his background in a few minutes. So you're all muted, and you probably already know this already since this is one of the last presentations of the day, but you're all muted. But if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just chat it in, and we have Chris Maggard moderating, so she might answer your questions if easy enough, or just wait till the end of our presentation to ask one of us to answer them. So we take the idea of helping you reach your goals very seriously. So when it comes to our digital inspections and workflow management products, we guarantee a 20% increase in ARO when you follow our best practices. When we talk about best practices, we're talking about using the products in a certain way that we know will help you accomplish your goals. For example, using the ARO as an example for a goal, we know that just completing inspections 100% of the time is not good enough, because if you're not sending those inspections to your customers, then what difference is it going to make? So those are the types of behaviors that and best practices that we really focus on. And our team has experience guiding hundreds of shops through this change to the digital process. And we're all about sharing what works and what doesn't, as you can see from what we're doing today. So I'm going to allow Russ to talk a little bit about his shop and his experience with AutoVitals products, and just give a little bit of background information about himself based on this slide. So if you can, Russ, take it over and maybe talk a little bit about the graph as well.
Yeah. So, the graph that we see here is towards the beginning over here where you see $9,955. That was right at the beginning of when I had started using AutoVitals. So I was not really following every practice. I was doing the inspections. Not every vehicle was being sent out. And I was, just trying to learn the system. And ultimately through working with my coach and various coaches throughout the time, I was able to pick up little nuggets and little things throughout the whole time, and basically building a process here where I've gone from that $9,000 mark, and you can see over here, 21,000, 20 grand, and we're looking at the yellow dots here. Those are motorist inspection times, and ultimately, it was taught to me that in order for us to increase our ARO or increase our sales, we really have to get the motorists to pay attention to our inspections and really focus on these inspections. Al, my coach, he had talked to me a little bit about what this graph was here, this BCP graph. And we talked about different things that could contribute to getting those motorist times increased a little bit. And I really I looked at it, I thought it was great. I didn't really get to buy into it as much as I should have, because I didn't really know what I was looking at. About a year ago, almost to the day, it was at HCI Super Conference last year. I sat in a class with Tom and Uva, and I got to meet Garrett and a couple other people out there. And Uva put on a whole class on what this motorist research time does for your business when you focus on it, when you focus on this BCP. So this really became a key factor that I looked at, making sure that I'm keeping those people engaged in our inspections. And so many processes came out of that, picture policies, editing picture policies, and so many different metrics that we started to follow, which ultimately helped us start to achieve our goal. And if you don't pay attention to that 13,000 all the way at the right, for the most part, you could see that it's really, really helped us expand our business. And you could see that how the graph itself follows. As motorist inspection times go up, so does your ARO, so does your weekly repairs. So I mean, that's been my experience with this right here, this graph. Does that hit it right there?
Yeah, thank you. Could you also just talk a little bit about maybe a little bit of your bigger goals? So I know that, or at least I understand that you're thinking about opening up a second location, and that makes sense to me looking at this graph, given that you've had such a growth in car count as well over the past year and a half or so. And so could you tell us about, what direction you think your business is headed?
Yeah. So the goal when I opened the company was to, this was a lifelong dream to own my own shop, and I kind of hit the ground running. I got hooked up with some really great companies to help me do that, AutoVitals being one of them. And I said, okay, I kind of achieved my goal really quickly. I wasn't expecting that, I'm sure that's happened to a lot of us out here, that you hit that goal so quickly that you didn't prepare for what's next. Through talking with my coaches, I said, my goal now is to open a second location, maybe a third location, maybe get a couple of these things going. And ultimately what that turned into is my goal is to, it's not even my goal. It's my team's goal. My team's goal is to continue to build our processes utilizing these metrics that we see in front of us, and build a bunch of these shops so that eventually we can turn it over into an ESOP where it's employee owned. I'd love to see Russ's Wrench at some point be an employee owned company that's, nationwide. Much like there used to be a tire store that was it was called STS here in New Jersey, and STS was a great company. It was employee owned, and it was really, really a company that you could start with very minimal training. I really didn't need to know anything as a technician or a writer. You could walk through the door, and they had their own training policies, and they had their own training facilities, and they would build their team from the ground up. And ultimately, that's my vision for Russ's Wrench, is to be able to take anybody that wants to get into this industry, because this industry is not going away. It's going to advance. It's going to grow, but it's not going away. We may have self-driving cars, cars that completely drive themselves in the next 10 years, where we don't even have drivers in the seats anymore, but ultimately they're still going to need some type of maintenance. So, and they're going to need somebody that can work on those vehicles. So my goal is to continue to follow that curve with technology and build a business that's employee owned, so that everybody gets a piece of the pie. Everybody has that buy-in. Everybody's working for the same goal under the same vision. And that's where we're going. That's what I hope for. And, our weekly car count and our weekly revenue, it's all going to change drastically as we grow. But, as you can see here from this panel, from the time I started with AutoVitals to now, a 48% increase in car count. That didn't just happen because I got lucky. So, and it's nice to have this metric to follow and see where it's going, so we can make those calculated business decisions that we have to make.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. So the reason that I asked Russ to talk a little bit about his goals ties into our process. So what happens when a new shop signs up with AutoVitals is that they are assigned a trainer, and that could be someone like Chris Maggard or Bill Connor. And their process starts off by really understanding your goals, whether that be related to the ARO, revenue, efficiency, retention rate, whatever it may be. And then what they do is outline a plan for the first couple of months to get you ramped up. And the product itself only does so much. It's not going to do anything unless you really incorporate it into your process. So a huge part of those initial months and getting you set up is really incorporating the products into your standard operating procedure. And so that's just everything from getting the vehicle checked in, your drop-off procedure, to getting it picked up. And if you don't have a standard operating procedure, then we help you build one, because it's really important to know what your staff is doing and have that consistency with all of your customers. And so once we do that, we work with you, and this is really getting back into that graph we were looking at. That's our business control panel. So really evaluating, now that you're using the product and you've created a process, is your team really following that process that you've set out for them? And are they really understanding what the importance of following that process is? So that incorporates learning how to read the business control panel and the metrics that are shown there, and how to incorporate them into your shop meetings, and then ultimately improving your process and making those changes. So we'll talk about a little bit later, we'll talk about how the results are one aspect of the bigger picture, but in order to really make that change, you need to understand what kinds of actions you and your team can take. And so those are those influential KPIs, such as inspection rate or inspection send rate, because it's being sent via email or text. So Russ, did you have anything to add about just your training experience or anything there?
You know, it's so crucial to listen to your coaches and really stay focused on going to those meetings, meeting up with whoever your coach is, because the team is just incredible. They listen to your goals and help you build a roadmap so that you can drive your team where you need to go. So that's what I have to say right there. You know, it's very, very important.
Awesome. So the reason that we put a large emphasis on not just the product, but also the best practices and training, is because we're always feeling like there's room for growth. So some of the common challenges that we see shops facing when we're talking to them, when they're implementing the product, is they feel like their staff is doing double the work in their point of sale and in AutoVitals. They sometimes feel like their staff is reluctant to change the process that they've implemented. They feel like what they'd been doing was just fine. Sometimes after a couple of months of using the product, shops feel like they've already achieved the results they were looking to achieve, and they feel like they're good now. And then other times we find that shops aren't looking at those influential KPIs like the inspection rate, but they're just looking at the end result. So they're wondering why their ARO hasn't changed when they've implemented the product. So those are common reasons that if you're experiencing any of that there's still room for growth, and that there might be portions of the product that you're not fully utilizing, or utilizing in the way that we know will help you. And actually, going back to that, I was going to ask Russ if you could talk a little bit about, the importance of improving process and what steps you might have taken in your shop.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're not using the product to its full offering, it's kind of like if you were mounting, you're supposed to be mounting 4 tires on a car and you decide to only put 3 on and leave 1 wheel off, it's not going to work so good. You may roll down the road, but it's not going to roll as smoothly as it should. And you're not going to get the results that you want. So really maximizing and talking with your coach and learning these different processes and learning the different trainings that are available to you and implementing everything they have to offer is so huge. If you're not doing that, you're not going to get the results that you really want. And look, there's tons of room for growth. That's why we're using things like this. We have a great tool here to really help us build our businesses to where we want to go, and a great team to help us get there by training us. So I can't stress enough to use that full product and help yourself, really, help yourself as you're trying to hit your goals. It's so crucial. There's really not a whole lot more I can say about that other than, the industry changes a lot, and Uwe and the team over there are constantly changing things to help us do our job better. So frequent training, keep an eye on the different trainings that are popping up, and continue to build your knowledge and learn how to use these tools, because it's only going to help you.
Cool, thank you. So there are a couple of things that we as trainers and advisors suggest you utilize to help you make improvements with the product usage in your shop and operations in general. One is to utilize the business control panel, and we'll talk about each of these in more detail. 2 is to utilize our Facebook forum and other training resources that we have. And 3 is to utilize whoever is your AutoVitals trainer and advisor, because they have a lot of knowledge, either from their own experience working in shops or from working with so many other shops throughout the country. And by combining that knowledge, it just helps everyone in the industry go further. So the business control panel, as we mentioned before, it goes a little bit further than traditional reporting, because traditionally reports would show things like ARO in this example, and you would just see that, okay, over the past couple of months, it fluctuated a bit, and it could be seasonal reasons, or it could be what's going on right now in terms of coronavirus, whatever it may be. But there was sometimes guesswork involved. But then other times when you wanted to dive in to see, can I actually make improvements in my shop, or is it really outside my control? It would take a lot more reporting and digging to figure out, were my inspections just not good? Were we not showing them to the customers, whatever it may be. So in contrast to traditional reporting, the business control panel goes further by really focusing not on just this end result KPI, but these behavioral influential KPIs, such as for the ARO, the inspection rate, number of recommended actions that the technicians are marking per inspection, the inspection sent rate, and then motorist research time. And the motorist research time is how much time the customer is actually spending looking at those results that you sent over. So we have recommendations for where all those numbers should be for you to really see a difference in terms of the end result and the impact that it really has on your business. And so this is Russ's, a screenshot from Russ's shop. And the main thing that I just want to point out here before we actually look at transition to looking at his actual business control panel is that you can see here, this is the ARO over this time period. And these are those influential KPIs. And the main thing here to note is just that the path of the ARO follows that of these influential KPIs. And so if we look here, for example, it's the same time period, it's just less information so that it makes more sense. If we look here, we're looking at the average research time by motorists, so that's the green, and then we're looking at the inspection percentage, which is this orange. And they also follow this path, and that makes sense because if you send the inspection, the motorist research time is expected to go up because now you're sending more of your inspections to actually be seen. There's a lot more that goes into this motorist research time than just sending the inspection over to them. And we'll talk a little bit more about that once we look at Russ's BCP. But same thing, now that this is the same time period, just the average research time here, and we see that this increase in the middle resulted where the ARO also increased along with it.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
You can look real quick. A 20-second difference made $100 difference in the ARO. That's how important that motorist research time is, right? I just want to point that out. If they didn't catch that, that's a big deal right there. $100 for 20 seconds. Sign me up for that job.
For sure. Hey, Gursharan, can you share the best practice on what motorist research time we would like them to reach?
Chris, you go ahead and share that. No, and if you have anything else to add, Chris is one of our trainers, so feel free.
So our goal for you guys and what we work with you guys to achieve is anywhere from 240 to 300 seconds or more. And what that is telling you is that your motorists are spending 4 to 5 minutes on average reviewing their inspection results. And that's not just them opening the inspection results and walking away. They're actively engaging, scrolling, touching, tapping, right? So as you can see here, one of the number one most important KPIs is your motorist research time. The longer your customer spends reviewing their inspection sheet, the higher the approval.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, definitely. So for that reason, we're going to jump into the actual business control panel. And let me know, do you guys want me to zoom in a little bit more, or I'll do it once, maybe twice, just in case. No, that
I want to go live with one question if we could, and I want to direct this to Russ.
Go ahead.
We had a question that came on from Levon, and what he's asking is, what thoughts do you guys have on target market affecting research time?
So we certainly see that if you're depending on what your target market is, it can certainly impact your research time. So we work on a lot of Jeep vehicles, right? So we'll have Jeeps come in from other states, from our state, and when they bring them in and they want to do something cool to them, they're going to spend a lot of time on those inspections because they're bringing it in for a specific item, and they like the process that we have. I think the real important thing is to let your customers know that you're going to be sending them this awesome report and to be on the lookout for it. And, let them know that they're going to be seeing this report and they should dedicate some time to looking at it. I hope that answers the question a little bit. I mean, your target markets are going to, it really depends on how your inspection's set up. If you're trying to target a specific service, maybe have a couple extra pictures or a couple extra videos within the inspection on that. So that could get the finger to stop scrolling on the report for sure. Hope that answers the question. If it didn't, go ahead and send another one in and I'll try and dial it in a little more.
Sounds good. So we'll continue, and then if anyone has any other questions, Chris, just bring them up. So in terms of this business control panel, that's exactly, and Russ just talked about, I was going to do a little bit of a impromptu check-in with Russ, but it seemed like he already knows what he needs to do, or, at least one step. And so instead of, going through looking at all the influential KPIs, I'll just give a little bit of a summary. So the inspection rate and inspection sent rate, both are pretty good. However, the inspection sent rate, if I turn off some of this, it still does fluctuate. And this is the ARO that kind of follows the same pattern. And then if I turn off that inspection sent rate and just have the average research time, you see, again, a little bit of a trend, in terms of what goes on. If as the motorist research time goes up, then we expect the ARO to also go up. Again, I think we're looking at kind of odd times at the end here, just based on, what's going on these days. But generally, we can expect that trend to follow. So my question for you, Russ, would just be, it looks like keeping a little bit of that consistency with the inspection sent rate is one area to focus on. But what you just said in terms of setting an expectation at drop-off, that's also really important, where, you might see that your numbers look good, where you're sending the inspections, you're doing the inspections, but maybe the motorist research time may still not be impacted. So the next step is really figuring out, are those expectations being set at drop-off to show the customer? And I think this was a part of Chris's presentation earlier. So if you guys haven't seen it, again, when those videos are released, we'll point you all to them. But setting that expectation is just as important as sending that information over, but then also following the process that we recommend once you've sent the inspection over. That makes a huge impact too. So Russ, could you tell us a little bit about what actions, because I don't know if you all can see this, but Russ put in his business control panel a note to himself to get the average research time to 200 seconds. And this was something that he assigned to himself to work on about a month ago. So could you tell us a little bit about what actions you've taken and what you're planning to take if you haven't yet?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're looking at this business control panel, the inspection set rate at 82%, we've increased our fleet customers and our body shops. So we're working with many body shops now where we're not necessarily working with the person who owns the vehicle directly. So we were seeing an issue with the inspections not being sent specifically to the body shop. So my guys weren't always doing inspections because they're bringing it in for an alignment and they're shipping it out the door. So that kind of impacted our inspection sent result. And we've since then come up with a game plan to fix some of the customers, the way that they're set up in the system, so that it doesn't count against us, so it doesn't hurt our inspection sent. But we went one step further because we want to try and get a history of all the vehicles that are coming in. We take specific pictures around the vehicle and do a mini inspection on the vehicle, even though it's for a body shop, so that it's going to start improving the amount of inspections sent. So that's one thing that we worked on. Mm-hmm. Looking into the motorist time on the inspections, there's a couple here where it dropped below 132 seconds. We had a situation where we were working with a newer technician that we brought on, and he was recommending factory maintenance and saying, in the inspection, due for factory maintenance at this time in certain areas. And, some transmissions don't have dipsticks, so he wasn't taking a picture of the fluid condition and doing certain things that we're supposed to be doing on all of our inspections, which ultimately is giving less content to the customer. So we had to go back to basics and kind of go over the SOP on how we do these inspections and how we're going to present that to the customer. That way it doesn't look like we're trying to sell them a service they don't need, and we're following our best practices at the same time. And you can see it kind of jumped right back up. We've got, 288 seconds there for a week, and we're kind of going back and forth trying to get this to stable out a little bit. We're having weird times right now. I think everybody is. So the key thing right now is making sure that we're doing quality inspections, because people don't have a lot to do other than look at their phone. So they're going to be stuck in their homes, and we want to slow their finger down so they're not scrolling through Facebook. They're scrolling through our inspection and doing that very slow. So give them a lot of content to look at.
Exactly. Have them learn about their vehicle instead of coronavirus.
Right.
I know we're probably all reading a little bit too much about it these days.
For sure.
As you were talking, I just added a note in terms of what you were already saying, so to focus on the procedure for inspections and then auditing weekly. And that might help you, as it went back up because you focused on it, but just doing those regular checks, which I think you already are, will help to make sure that, your team and everyone on the team is following that process that you're asking of them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Another thing, instead of, and don't want to take up too much time on it, is just another idea would be talking to your team about with the motorist research time, what are they doing when they actually send the inspection? So are they waiting to contact the customer, or are they contacting them right away? And whether anything in that process needs to be changed.
Right. Yeah, and I know that in this time period, we're dealing with a slowed or a lower car count than normal. So we kind of jumped the gun a little bit on calling customers instead of letting them take the time to actually read through the inspection and giving them the time they need to kind of take in all of that information. So I know that was another thing that we really needed to do, was take a step back, let them do what they're supposed to do, let the customers do their research, and then give them a call or wait for their call after they've spent some time on that inspection.
Exactly. Great. So this is just a real quick, just diving into the business control panel so you all could see it. And I'm just going to add those quick notes with assign a date, a couple weeks, assigned to Russ, so that he can check back in when he's looking at the business control panel and just make sure that he's taking those actions that he thinks would help the shop. And
one thing to add on, Gursharan, would be, for those of you that are actively using the business control panel, and hopefully it's every one of you, you guys can send your trainer a task in here as well. Mm-hmm. So if you have any questions, you need help, you're not sure, and you don't have time to call, send an email, hop in your business control panel. Your trainer is in here. You can send us a task. We see it. We will reply to that, right? So don't limit yourself to only AutoVitals assigning stuff that you need to work on. Assign your trainer stuff that can help us help you as well.
Exactly. Thanks, Chris, for adding that. All right. So switching back to our presentation, one final thing just for now, because there's just so much that you could talk about the business control panel, but just for now, I wanted to share this slide, and I know it's probably a lot going on, but that's a little bit of the point. So the main thing that you should see from this graph is that this blue line follows arrow, right? And it doesn't change much over this time period. But what we see here is that at times the shop is doing pretty well in terms of inspection rate, and it helps their motorist research time for a little bit. But what's not happening over this time period is consistency. So especially when adopting this process, it's going to be tough to see, huge results. You'll see some quick wins, just being able to show, hey, we did this one inspection and this is how many jobs we sold. Those types of things help when you're talking to your team. But to see really an impact to your business, you have to keep your team going for a period of time where it doesn't just fluctuate. Because if you just stop for a couple of months at a time, then you're not going to really see the results that you were anticipating. So that was why I shared that. Anything to add there, Russ?
Yeah, I mean, this is a clear-cut example of just not sticking to a plan, and your coach you're working with your coach will help you stay accountable and continue to follow those processes, because if you don't get the buy-in, how are you going to get your people's buy-in on doing this? It's I've been asked a lot of times, how do I get the team to buy in and move forward with some of the ideas that we have? Well, if this is what your BCP looks like, then you're not completely bought in on this product either. So as the business owner, the manager, the leader, you have to buy in, and you have to have that accountability partner, which AutoVitals gives you as a coach, to stick with it and see it through. And that's super important.
Great, thank you. So another thing that we recommend, this is just a slide about all the different types of training and resources we provide you. So I think Chris is gonna, if she hasn't already, just chat in some of these links in case you might not have any or all of them. But our training and advising goes beyond just these one-on-one conversations. Russ already mentioned before, going to a conference where Tom and Uva were presenting, and he got, a takeaway from that. And so we aim to do that in different ways. And so we have our Facebook forum, the Digital Shop Talk Facebook forum, and then we also have the Digital Shop Talk Radio, where Tom hosts. And we also have our online videos and training at help.autovitals.com/academy. And then we recommend that you attend webinars that your trainer or your advisor might be recommending to you. They're going to be doing that just, not just to have you sit and learn all day, but hopefully it's applicable to some sort of goal that you're aiming for. And then just a future item is that we're always trying to work on improving our training. And so going beyond just our online training, we're hoping to make it easier for you to find by directly embedding it into the product. And on the left-hand side here is just an example of what kind of question a shop might ask in our Facebook forum. And this was recent because they just wanted their customers to know that they're still open, regardless of what's going on around right now. And so just simple questions about, maybe they hadn't really been using the campaign feature of the product to send mass emails. So now they have a need and they can just quickly figure out what the best way to do that is. And then this is more just of a summary because we've been talking about this all presentation, but just really make sure to reach out to your trainer and advisor. So in that business control panel, like Chris said, you can send a note there. You can ask questions, directly email them, whatever, because they're there to help you reach your goals. So again, it's not just about how to use the product, but really how to use it to in a way that will actually help you. So really talking about how to implement process changes, like doing a inspection audit and what should the inspection actually be looking like So from a customer's perspective, and then making recommendations on website updates if you have a website with us, and just a campaign calendar if you're doing retention, that sort of thing. I just thought I would share this just so that you get an idea of shops that have utilized their trainers and their advisors, what they say. So the first one is website related. Isabel, I truly appreciate your guidance and patient support of us as we work to be consistent in our marketing. You consistently add value by reminding us of the little things and great resources that will simplify our efforts. We only need to keep at it. Thank you. And then Ola Shani, I want to take a moment to thank you for helping with the digital experience. Thank you for helping me get a better understanding of the BCP portal. Looking to continue working with you. Thank you so much. So I'm only sharing that so that you guys get an idea of the types of things that, you should be working with your advisor on, and the types of things to get you thinking about the types of questions you can ask our team. And this is just a quick picture of some of our trainers and advisors. And with the couple of minutes that we have left, I just want to see, I had a question up there, but I first wanted to see if people have noted down questions so that you guys can get some of those hopefully answered. So Chris? And Russ, if you wanted to end with anything.
I have one for you that just came in. Sorry, Russ.
That's okay. I was just reading the question. Yep.
Yeah. Any recommendations to new shops that are just starting out?
So the big thing is talk to your trainers, and if you have the ability to link up with another shop to work through some of the issues that you're having, talk to another shop that's using the platform. There's a couple shops around my area that started using AutoVitals, and I love helping them get through some of those questions and overcoming some of the objections that you get from your team. It does slow the process a little bit in the beginning, but it's such a great tool to use for your team with the DVI, and in your team meetings, what we were showing before on the BCP, where you can add notes. You're able to take those action steps and use that BCP in your team meetings to put together a task list weekly or bi-weekly, however you're having your team meetings, and address things one by one. There's a lot to take in when you're first starting out with this awesome system, but you take it step by step, and your coach is going to help you get there step by step. And if you need more help, reach out to the forums. And ask the questions that you have. Just don't be afraid to ask any questions.
Yeah, and I want to chime on to that is, I'm one of those trainers that work with shops from the very beginning. And we have a focus on the 75-day plan that's really going to help you guys achieve the baseline success. And what I mean by that is understanding the ground roots of how to utilize the program and start seeing an approval increase immediately. But we can't do it without you. So a couple things is that I would recommend is, one, make sure you have a meeting with your staff and let them know it's going to get worse before it gets better. We're implementing a process and a change in our shop. Changing behavior is hard and it's challenging, right? So it's going to take you more time in the beginning. It's not going to just magically make things better for you. It's going to take time. So be committed to the process. Make sure you're attending your training sessions. Be open and honest with the challenges that you're having so we can help you overcome them, and just work with your trainer as a team. We're here to help you guys be successful with this new process that we have, and not everybody's got this process yet, right? This is something we started, I don't know, maybe 6 months, a year ago with this new training process. It's working. It's very successful. And if you feel like you guys need to kind of revert back to get the right help and training that you guys need to be more successful with the tools that you have, ask for help. Demand help from your trainer, right? That's what we're here to do. So please communicate with us and communicate with your staff and allow them to know that it's going to slow you down in the beginning, but it will speed you up in the end. And it's a beautiful process.
So can I address the one comment here from Anthony about, not really opening the BCP except for today? Well, you took the first step. You opened the BCP today. It was only about a year ago that I even knew what the BCP was, and about a year ago I started messing around with it, and now it's a crucial part in how we shape the direction of where we want to head. So talk with your trainer. I know that was part of your comment. I hope you reach out to your trainer and you learn how to use this tool, because it's instrumental in what you're going to be doing here in the future. And, congratulations on taking that first step and opening that thing up today. Great job.
Absolutely. Good job, Anthony. One other question, and I'm going to ask you, Russ, so I'm not biased here in any means. What shop management system do you prefer to use for AutoVitals?
What, I'm sorry, what was the question? You cut out.
What shop management system is preferred for AutoVitals?
I use Protractor. I'm using Protractor right now. I switched from ShopKey. Protractor has a very, very good integration ability, probably the best that there is, in my opinion. I will say learning the system takes some time, and it's another challenge. But it's a challenge that's worth overcoming, because it will help you in the long run. That integration is huge. And being able to be two-way compatible, where it's able to push information from AutoVitals into Protractor and from Protractor into AutoVitals, it's really, really important. Very, very important. So we use Protractor in my shop.